In this video, I'll be showing how to create the shelving system with the dowels and the settings here to create and put the shelves in. This was a question that I had from people, how to add more details to furniture. And so I'm showing the basic steps as to how I approach a design like this. So hopefully you find this interesting. Consider becoming a Script Vault member. I have scripts from the start up to now that you can access. I also have a script store if you're looking for scripts that are ready to go. And if you don't know how to use Grasshopper, I also offer a self-paced course where you can learn how to get started using this program. So thank you very much for being here, and let's jump right in. The first thing we'll do is we'll open up a new Rhino file with the units being inches, and then here we'll start by bringing in a point. So we'll go here to construct point, and we'll plug this point into a point component. And this is going to be our insertion point, or the point that we'll use to start everything off with. So what we'll do is we'll create the base form with the height and the width. So we'll move this up, and then this one in both Z and X. Last time I showed it in two different steps. So moving this up in the Z and then going out in the X. This time we'll go to vector, and we'll construct a move point by moving this point or this geometry using this vector. But this time we'll use two numbers automatically in here. We'll go in the X, it's going to be the width, so we'll go to 24. And the height, we're going to input as a different slider with a different height. This will give us 2 points, which is the only thing we need to create a rectangle. So now we'll bring in rectangle, point, and bring in these 2 points. Now we need to give it a reference plane, otherwise it will only create a line because it's using this XY coordinate system as the reference. So the way I go about changing that is looking down here, we see we have the Z and the X, and that is actually the plane that we want to bring in. So we'll go X, Z plane, plug that into our insertion point, and this plane gets plugged into the plane for the rectangle. Now we've created that rectangle, that now we can create a boundary surface around. So what I'd like to do is just show different ways of creating different steps of creating similar geometries for like base geometries. So for this one, we'll be using this rectangle. What we'll be doing is subdividing this on the inside and then showing you how to do the settings for shelving. The next step that I'll take is by moving this point up and in, and then taking this point and moving it down and in. So we'll do something similar that we did here. We'll bring in a move. We'll be moving this initial point up, but not by this much. It's going to be by the material thickness. So we'll go here 0.7500, move it in the X and in the Z. And if we did this in the positive, well, we're going to do the same thing at the top one, but in the negative direction. So all we need to do is copy this, plug this top point into this one, and then rather than it being positive, we'll go here to negative, and it'll basically flip the vector in the opposite direction. Now we have these 2 points that are brought in at this material thickness, and we can obviously change the slider here. So let's go to something like 5. Now we can use these 2 points to create a rectangle. So we'll take this rectangle, I'll tap Alt, create a copy, and now plug in our point A and point B. So far we have two surfaces. So to create a subtraction, I like to do a region difference. So let's go here to region difference. And I'll plug in this. Well, here's what happens. Here it gives you the one that you want to keep and then the one that you want to remove. It gives us both curves. So I'll plug in this rectangle and then this rectangle. Now it'll give me the resulting frame. So now let's disable the preview on this and then bring in a boundary surface to create a plane within the region that we subtracted. And so this takes care of the overall shape. And now I'm going to show, here let's create the depth and then create the settings for some shelves on the inside. Now what we're gonna do is take this and extrude. We're going to extrude this surface in the Y direction. The other thing is sometimes if you want to change the location, if you plug in an X or Y or Z value, if you're trying to change the orientation later, it might give you issues, but if you're just trying to create it standalone parametrically here, it shouldn't give you any issues. So we'll go here to extrude in the Y direction. And now we'll give the depth, so 24. So I've set the stage in this exercise for just a base form like this. Of course, we can obviously bring this up and this down to kind of play around with it. So basically giving this number being different. This will allow us to play around with this and then this being a little bit different. If that's something we want to do. And now what we need to do is figure out either one of these lines on the inside. So let's bring back this rectangle. This rectangle was created with a point down here. Actually, there's this point and then there's this point. Disable the preview on most of the stuff. Okay. So this point that created the rectangle on the inside, this I am going to move up by the same amount that we have here, minus 2 times, okay, let me show you what I mean. We're going to take this and move, and well, let's think about this slowly. If I were to, let's capture this because I want to show an example. There are different ways of doing this. We can create a line and divide it in different points. So in half and then do the shelves there. Or we can take this point and move it up and then create a series of points all the way up to the top. And I think that's actually going to be the best way. So what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll go to move. We'll move these points, this geometry in the Z direction. And so we moved this up by 1, but let's say we want to move it by 12. So when we move it up by 12, that's where the first point is going to start. Then we can create a series of points, or if we want to create more, we'll bring in the series component. We'll bring in the step as 12 and the count of how many points, we'll just say 5. And in the series, we'll actually go into the factor. So this allows me to create a point starting here and then stepping by 12. We can decrease this also. But what's going to be critical is that our first number is actually going to be different. So our start number will be here, let's say 24. So our number starts 24 up and then 8 inches above from that. And we can create more settings or smaller. So every 6 inches, starting 12 inches from the bottom, it's going to create 12. Now we'll max it out here at 20. We'll just say 12 points that it can create. So 12 points starting here, 12 inches below the bottom. What this will do is establish the points where we're going to create a solid and then subtract from the overall form. And this can take many forms. We're going to be using circles today, but it could be using different types of dowels and things like that. So at this point, what we'll do is take this and we're going to move it to the inside. Now, which way is it going to be? Well, it's going to be positive Y. And what is important to notice is that we're actually only going to do one side, because then it's symmetrical, so we can use a mirror command and it'll mirror it to each side. So we'll take this and go and move it again in the Y direction. This time we'll just say 6.500. We'll disable the preview on this. So now that we have these, we're going to bring in a plane so we know in which direction the circle is going to be made, because if I just bring in a circle, it's going to be horizontal to the ground or parallel to the ground, so we want it to be up against this wall. So we'll bring in a YZ plane, and then plug in all of those points into the YZ plane so we can use that as a reference for our circle. Now we can give that a radius and then hide those planes so we can actually see the spacing and everything that we're trying to do here. So like I said, this will determine how many. So if you want them only down here, to set some shelves at the bottom and then space them out larger, or you can have them spaced out lower but maybe starting at a higher point. So this is kind of the cool thing about it. And we can always add more points, right? And then lower and raise this number, and then come back here and change the radius for this. We're not really done yet because we've only kind of created those points. Now we're going to extrude them in and subtract them from the overall form. And then, well, we have to first mirror that all the way around and then subtract it from the overall form. So to take these and extrude them in, we need to take these circles and we'll go here to boundary surfaces, and then I'll extrude that in to the negative X. We'll go here to extrude negative, unit X, and we'll do 0.500. I plug some of these in before I plug in this one, so I see, as soon as I plug it in, I can kind of see the change right away. And then we can change this up. Now, for the most part, this will work. And the reason why I'm turning it into a surface is because if I don't turn that into a surface, then it won't extrude as a solid, and that's what we need. So now we're going to get the center point of this by bringing in an area component. which will give us the centroid, which is like the center of mass. And now here we can go to X, Y plane and Y, Z plane and X, Z plane. Plug both of these in because we're going to mirror it to both using the center. Now we can mirror using this and using this. So first one is the X, Z. These, and we'll plug those in. Now we'll take both of these. All of those I'll plug into a brep. This way it kind of cleans it up and we can subtract just from kind of one input rather than all of these different components. I'll disable the preview on all of this and let's take a look. We'll take that and we'll do a difference, solid difference, and plug in the overall form into brep A, and we'll subtract from brep B. Now we can disable the preview on everything and now we can see it correctly. And if we are to play with the settings, check out the numbers here. So we'll start at 12. We'll have 9 settings and it would step by 6. Or starting at 24. This way there's a space down here and a space above. And then for the height, we have it at 100. We can say 60. So here's the thing, that's a little bit too low. So let's just kind of raise it up here. Next thing that we can do is create the little triangles that go in here. All we would need to do is do it to one side, and then we would end up doing the same thing where we mirror it all over. So let me show you that portion. I'm going to go over a fairly basic kind of connection here, but obviously you can further kind of develop things when you have like an overall form. So what we'll do here is go back to our planes where we created this originally. So it'll be this plane, and now we have the point here. So we'll bring in a move component. We're going to move this relative to this plane. So we're going to use amplitude, and we're going to take that point and move it up, forward. So using amplitude, we'll plug that into the vector, this into the motion, and we'll plug in the points as the geometry. This will move the point away from that center. Now we're going to take this and we're going to move it down. So we're going to use the move rather than down, rather than off of that, we'll go Z negative. So we've created 3 points. Now we'll go to a polyline and connect those 3 points. So points A, B, and C for a triangle. And they have to be grafted. So we have to go here to graft 3. do this like this. Why? Because it has to know that these are being done in individual groups. So now that we have those connected, we can go here to close, set boolean to true, and we've kind of closed that down. Now what we need to do is move this up to cover the whole. So basically moving it up in the Z direction by the same amount as the radius, right? If we move it up by the radius, it'll cover the whole. So we'll take this and up in the Z direction by the radius of the circle. And we can add more, but that is actually the most basic location. So now we can take this and create a surface there, because when you have a triangle, you have a plane. Now we're going to take this and extrude, or move in one direction and extrude in the opposite. So move in the Y direction and extrude negative Y 2 times as much. So we'll take this and move in the Y direction. Now we're going to extrude in the negative direction twice as much. So times 2. And the factor is going to be the width. And that could be the radius, because it's half of the distance. So if we use that radius, we can also bring in a relay and kind of save some time this way. We can also add, so we can say that plus .25. We can also add vertically, but I think that actually covers it. And then here with all of these extrusions, we can actually join those with these to create our little dowel detail. We'll go here to, and here's the other thing, the amplitude. So the amplitude is how far this is coming out. We can go to 0.2500 here. And so it doesn't overhang too much. And also when we bring this down, it doesn't go down too much. And now with that, we can join it together. So we'll go to union, solid union, and join those together. So now I can disable the preview on all of that and use these as the detail for mirroring all of it. So we'll take, oh, I disabled it, so we'll enable it again. I'm just trying to preview this and then preview this again. Yeah. We'll just do it manually again. So we'll go to mirror, mirror this one in the XZ. We'll go here to XZ. And now do this again to both of these, but in the YZ. And plug those into BREP. This BREP becomes the connections. And that was a polyline. So technically we can round it off using fillet edge, but we won't do that on this one. We'll keep it simple. Next thing is, let's bring back the points, and let's now create the shelves. So we're going to take this point, move it up by the radius of the dowel, and that then will create the point up here. We'll bring it all the way over and then across. Actually, this is incorrect because this has been moved in. So we actually want this one. And this is actually already moved. So we actually want this one. Okay, this one. This one is going to be moved in the X direction by the overall width minus 2 times the side thickness. So we'll go here to move. Motion, it's going to go in the X direction. And the width is going to be the width overall. So we know this because overall width is 39. And if I plug in 39, it brings it all the way out here. But we know that it's 2 times the width of this that we need subtracted. So we'll go here and we'll go to minus sign. And to save time and not go all the way up there, I'll double click on the wire creating a relay, bring that into the minus. Now we can plug into the B the side thickness. Now I know the side thickness is the smaller one out of these two because this takes care of the sides and this takes care of the heights. So we'll take this and subtract by this times 2. So I'll do multiply by 2, bring in this value into this one, subtract it from this overall distance, giving me the value moved to the exact location where I want it. And so the reason why I want this is to create a line between those two. So between starting point and ending point. Now we can take this and extrude it the depth of this. So if it's the depth of the extrusion, 24, we can extrude Now I'm going to bring this down here, and you can actually bring it anywhere. So it's actually cleaner if I just do this up here so it can be visible. And we'll take this and we'll move this up by the radius of the circle. Next, extrude this up. In the Z direction. And we'll give this a value. So we'll go 0.7500. Let's increase spacing. The other thing is it doesn't necessarily have to have all of the shelves. We can skip some of the points so we don't do all of them. We could just maybe even disable the preview on this and just create the settings. Like if you want to put the shelves there, and then if you want to show all of them, you can do something like this. So hopefully that shows you guys how to add settings and add things like this. All we're doing is creating base forms, subtracting from it. And the cool thing is once we've kind of done it and showed all of our steps, we can kind of go back and use some of the steps that we've used in the past and simplify some of the steps that we create further here. I'm sure there are ways that I can simplify this further, but overall, those are the steps that I take for creating something like this. So this was a question that I had from some people about how to add more details to things like cabinets and details like that. So hopefully this was useful for that. And if you'd like to get a hold of the script that I created for this video, check out my website, capettidavid.com. There you can become a Script Vault member where you can access all of the video scripts that I've created for my YouTube. You can access also the script store where I have optimized scripts of all various kinds. And lastly, if you want to learn Grasshopper and you've never tried it, or you want to share that with someone, I have a 6-module course that will help anyone get started. I post videos like this that will teach people how to get started using Grasshopper, so make sure to subscribe for future content. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you next time.